So the first one here is Linda. Linda, she's a true change maker. She's a director at Microsoft working with lots of innovation and really cool things. When I talk to her, I hear like, wow, that's really wonderful. I want to be there too. So that's fun. We also have Frederick Hammer-Gordon. He's from Individ. And what he's doing, which is really cool, he's putting the opposite. He's putting the real world into the digital world. And he's going to talk more about that later. But he's one of the co-founders in Individ and is a chief product owner as well in that company. Last but not least, Per. Per Högberg is Chief Strategy Officer at Metablocks, and it's metaverse. It's the magic things you've all heard about but have no clue how it really works in the real life. So hopefully we'll be able to touch on some of these things today. Before I start, do you want to add anything about, did I miss anything about you that you wanted to bring in, what you find interesting here today? No? Darn. Okay, so my first, and listen, don't look at this as a one-way communication. If you have questions, if you hear someone saying something, if you wonder about something, it says, what do you mean by that? Just throw out a hand and we'll address that as soon as we can. So the first topic we have 3 topics we're going to cover today because we see that convergence between the real on and offline world. We have both real estate people here and retail people here and tech people here. So what happens with that convergence? So the first questions I'm going to ask actually to the panelists here is we're seeing a shift in how retailers are approaching the market. Everyone's talking about being data-driven. But honestly, what does it mean to be data-driven? I'll start with you. What do you think? What does it mean to be data-driven?
Yeah, and I think it's pretty easy because it's putting the customer at the center and understanding what the customer wants. And then you can, of course, talk with the customer in a more personal way. We have already done that for a while, but you can also look into which products you should buy, how the store should be arranged, where the store should be, the assortment in the store, all the way to empowering the people in the store to deliver that perfect physical meeting that we need when we are talking about building those relationships. So it is really putting the data at the core and give all the people in the organization access to that data. So everything you do gets smarter. But I just need to add.
Yeah, it's just it sounds so easy. Yeah. Where do you get the data? It's like, you just
and we have someone that can fix the data.
Right.
No, but it's also when we all the way into the sustainability piece, because data-driven, we have talked about it a lot, and it is more personal, and it is more efficient, but it's also more sustainable. So if we can do more with less and waste nothing, we will be fine, right?
Yeah.
So I think we need to understand that all the values about data-driven is.
No, and I think that's so cool. So we become more and more data-driven, but the challenge is a lot of the retailers don't. And now I'm generalizing, of course, some of you might be wonderful at IT and all these things, but a lot of them come from a different angle. So how do you find data? You work with that. How do you find data?
Retail and real estate are very broad industries, and what we've seen for the past 5 years I've been working with this is that the way we manage 2 different channels is completely different. And I think that what you said with sustainability is great because it's a matter of being sustainable and being able to achieve sustainability is being data-driven is essential to that. But also how we gather data is also about being sustainable due to regulations and especially in the physical world where everything is noisy, everything is more difficult. There's no consent. There's no way of doing consent if you're not closing everything, and we're not doing that. So I agree with you with being sustainable. And what we do is that we saw it from a different perspective. Like we started off as a retail innovation, and now we're both a retail innovation, but mainly a privacy innovation in how we gather data, how we anonymize data, but also how we work with regulatory processes and questions. So it's taken us 3 years as a startup, which is very difficult to cope with, but because it's new, very strict definitions, but very difficult to do technically and to prove technically.
Now you're being a little bit technical, so I'll ask you a little bit how you work, because you actually have a very a simple solution from a user point of view.
Yeah.
Right? You use existing cameras, right? You connect your thing to it, and it gathers data,
Yeah.
right? Just to make it in layman terms.
Yeah, in easy terms, we connect our cloud to a physical location, to their image streams from cameras, and in real time we process the data and anonymize the data in a neural network. And the end result, anonymous data, is what we work with to produce insights. So what that means is that retailers, both real estate companies and retailers, are able to work together. Like, we're able to create digital communities so that retailers understand their surroundings, what people are moving inside the mall, how they're walking, their behaviors, and how much of that proximity they're getting, what visitors I get compared to everybody else, to be able to optimize strategies, become more agile, and become more sustainable.
So what you do, you merge the on and offline world for real. You basically have a web page in the real world, and you can track all the flows and how people behave.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's kind of where you start. You take that to one more
Yeah.
layer, like you take it even higher,
We
bigger.
take basically what you guys said, and we put it in a virtual world. So when you talk about metaverses, virtual worlds has been here for a long time. And just like you described it, we kind of understand and can track all the data points of the user in our version of the virtual space. So how the user behaves and what they do and what they don't do, and as one example, how you would navigate in a virtual world in the store or in the physical building, and we model and test and track that versus, and could be done versus the physical world. So if you talk about metaverse, you should really think about dataverse or metadata, because everything that is built in the metaverse is there to capture data and to understand behaviors. So I think acting upon the data set, I think, is what we're about. That you can do really fast iterations and sprints. To be agile, I think it's the new black, I think. You go from weeks and months and quarters down to days and weeks in order to adjust things, because in the metaverse you can do this real fast. You can go from an idea and an insight based on data points, and you can model a new thing, and the next visitor in the virtual space, in your shop or complementary world, if you will, you can tune that with the next visitor. So it will capture, but also generate a lot of insight.
So if we pull that back to a little bit, using data, I see you jumping up.
I have one thing.
No, but they give you loads of data. What do you do with it?
Yeah, first I just want to add what you are saying, because gathering data is all about the digital. So it doesn't have to be so hard, because as soon as it's digital, you can trace it. So if you're bringing a tool to the customers that they will use into the physical store, that is also a way to track and to get the data. And of course you should ask, and at the same time you can deliver value that really bring that their own device becoming the best shopping companion, as Storlens is doing in Monkey, giving you a better price if you're using your phone. Of course the young people like to use that, and then they of course can get the data. So it's really about digitalizing the different steps of the journey, also the physical store, and analyzing everything you get.
But I actually want to bring back, because one of the challenges, I know, and now we go a little bit outside of the retail, but still close, it's in the real estate, one of the challenges is the data overload. You get too much data and you don't really go, you start growing and you have so much in the end you can't work. How do you know what data is relevant? How do you work with that?
And this is a big question, and everyone knew years ago that they needed to collect data, so we have done it. But starting to use it is not really...
That's a difficult part, right?
Yeah, but I think maybe we are not asking the right question. So if we're starting with what is the problems that we should solve. So which data do we need to answer those questions, like who is the customer? Maybe that would be the first question. And sometimes we don't have that data because we have only what is the online customer, and that is like 15% of what their behavior may be. And then we are blind in the physical store. So still we have a lot of data today, but I challenge the retail industry and say that you don't know your customer because you don't have all the data about the journey of the customer, and that is the key data.
Yeah. Actually, let's make a small poll here. How many of you here gather data on your customers? You have a long journey in front of you, and you should really look at it because it gives you so much insight. Working with data gives you so much insight, and it's not just for the big guys. Also, small guys can start working with data in a better way. So I urge you to, next time I ask this question, raise it proudly and say we do that too. Next question. So we talk about data gathering, but how can you converge that? So we talk about different channels, but a lot of it is not more about separate channels, but they converge. So how do you become attractive in that new world? How do you keep that attractiveness?
Yeah, being relevant, I would say.
Yeah.
I think being the new player on the block, I think it is what you said. It's about you have a physical presence, a marketplace and channel, and you have an e-commerce play that you do on channel that you've been building now for 5, 10, 15 years, and you're going to have a virtual VR, AR channel. One of the things that I think is the thing, and that is you need to plan how to manage all of those channels and places because they can generate value by themselves, but also cross over. A lot of the data that you would gain in the metaverse, in our metablocks, you would absolutely want to capitalize and use for the customer as that relationship, because I think one of the challenges why you don't engage customers is it's been a little bit taboo. And the ones who owns the customer data is really not us or the customer, it's really the big players in between, like the big Microsoft, like the Facebooks and the Googles in the world, and unlike Microsoft, I would say. So I think a complementary way to look at the metaverse and what we do is you're going to be able to do just that as an individual in some aspects, own and allow data to be shared, and as a player you can engage to that data directly.
But can I push you a bit further, a little bit further down the horizon? Not right here, but let's look like 4 or 5 years. How about personalization? If you have data, how can you work with that? How about reselling? If you know who's used to buying things and things come back, how do you work with reselling? How do you work with shop clerks in your store? How can you make them smarter and better? And when the customer comes in and say, "Oh, welcome back, Mr. Johnson. Wonderful to have you here." How can you work with technology to achieve those type of things? Sustainability is one thing you touched upon. How does technology enable those kind of changes in the marketplace?
Well, I would say to become relevant, you first need to have relevant data at all. So I've had the fortune to study this physical stores and real estate companies for 5 years, and our studies show that based on today's technology, you're only going to be able to achieve about 18% of the total need for insights with today's technology. So first of all, you don't have enough data, and second of all, there's also an organizational culture issue. Usually retail, all research for the past 15 years have said it too, that retail is based on intuition, imitation, and inspiration of others. And that means that decisions being done today that take years usually to roll out, because there are big retail chains, and I mean changing them all isn't easy. You're already behind. So being able to speed up those processes from gathering data, doing actions, understanding the value of those changes to understand the results, being able to have those type of processes within retail is crucial. Being adaptable, being agile.
So we'll take one. Sorry, did you want to say something?
So I would say it's also changing mindset, because going from becoming a data driven to like trust that data. You understand if we should do like Shein is doing, that they are scraping the market, they are looking at the trends, and they are producing small batches really quick. That is not so sustainable maybe, but it's data driven for sure, and it works, right? They are bigger than both Zara and H&M together now. Then the designers needs to, you know, work in a different way. The processes needs to change. We need to understand that the data is king and not the old processes, and that, I think that is the hardest part actually.
Sorry, go ahead.
I like to piggyback what you said, Linda. I think that data is a result, and I think you need to put it in a context what is it for? And it's to make decisions. What drives more value and how you can take care of your customers, whatever you do, in a faster, better way. And I do think that one of the things that companies needs to do now, and I think maybe one of the triggers is the metaverse of things, because what took e-commerce 20 to 25 years will take 5 to 10 years here. So all of the future generations will be using physical and your e-commerce and your virtual commerce channels and marketplaces. But it comes back to that original promise, I think, of your brand, of your company. What is it that you're supposed to do? Why are you here? And I think it's an excellent way to go from brand perception to brand engagement, because when you engage customer in our world, they generate a lot of new data sets that if you decide upon it, you can act real fast upon it and capture and drive new behavior. And I think that's what you're supposed to do with the data. You're supposed to gain and collapse insight and make decisions and change things. And I think it's not just one channel. I think it's for all the channels and all the marketplaces, actually.
Yeah, I just wanted to add back to your question, like what do we need to succeed in this world? And I truly believe that in the future it will be the same. We will keep on shopping from the brands that we like. So we need to keep the values, we need to speak the values, we need to understand what values the customer have, who is the customer, back to that. And then we need to create those places, and it is physical places, it's virtual places. It will never be e-commerce. E-commerce is not a place, it's like you can shop there, but it will never be that place to hang out. But the physical is a place, and we have people there, and the people are key to deliver that experience, that building that relationship. And those people can also be in the virtual world. So it's really about like understanding and keeping that promise to your customer and build that places where they want to hang out and be a part of your community. I think that is like key, and data are core to deliver on that.
No, and I think, you know, you touched on in the beginning we talked about sustainability, and you said maybe it's not so sustainable, but in fact it is very sustainable, because if you go back 10 years ago, when you looked at your supply chain, you made the orders 1 year earlier. You planned for what you're going to build and do. Today you do it 1 day before. You know, if you look at China, how they change the colors, how they do this, they make it 1 day before, you know, or the same day when you get the order. So personalization and it's changing the entire supply chain, not just the end customer interface.
No, for sure. And sustainability, it's so much there. You have resell also. And that is, I would say, I think we as people, we like to dress like so we feel good looking, but we know that it's not good for nature, and we want to do better there as well. So if a brand could help us to use what we already own, upgrade the wardrobe with only the stuff we need, maybe also help us to like upgrade with the right matching the people we like, you know, the dress is good looking, so we can really get help. We like help, right? And also maybe resell what we are not using. You know, that brand I would shop from. So it's really about, back to that, helping us, delivering on what we need, not forgetting about the sustainability part. It's important, and it will be even more.
I agree. So go ahead.
What is your perspective, why are the retailing business using data in doing what you just said? Because they have the data.
Yeah,
I
I
know for how long when I'm buying it and for how many months or years it will last in my wardrobe. And when I buy a new one, they have the data, but they don't build the business case for me as an end user.
No. I think, I don't know, but I think we are still a bit afraid of being too, like tracking our customers. So it's the same with someone in the store. If you go in a luxury store, the store associates, they know who you are. They have that technology because it's key for them. If they are selling Cartier, I have been building that, clienteling app. They know who you are. They will never say your name because it's too intrusive still. And I think it's because we have maybe used the data a bit wrong, because we are using it to push sales, and we don't want that. If we could just help us instead, like if we could really truly help using that data, I would say everyone would be happy with that. So just using it in a new way, and this like digital wardrobe thing would be one, to like everything we are caring for, food, like help me and my family to eat more healthy, or not putting sugar in my kids, or everyone would use that, right? But we don't have that tools. They are not, developing those.
And I think that's very much part of the explanation, very, very much. It's very important. But you have another aspect, and that's a lot of us are like oil tankers. We set a course and we stay on that course. And then before we move, it takes us a while to grasp that. It's not because we don't want to, and a lot of it is because actually retail, some parts of it has problems, but other ones have actually been quite successful for a long time. So there is no burning platform for the change until now. You have someone who's been around like Shine for what, 3, 4, 5 years?
3, yeah.
3 years, and they've taken over companies been around for 30, 40 years. They're bigger than that. Who would have thought that before? You didn't have to think of those things because the entry barriers were so large for other players to be competitive, and suddenly they're not. Technology changes that. So this is what I meant. Next time, everyone hands up when you say, are you data driven today?